long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, the Mandalorian has lost the child. Moff Gideon and his Dark Troopers have taken him, but with the help of Boba Fett, the Mandalorian swears to get the child back from the clutches of the Empire. And we're talking about the last 2 episodes of Season 2 Mandalorian. Fighters Watch, Ben Magnet, Brandon McClure,
Hello,
Ryan Eliopoulos, and Sparks Whitty. We're talking about chapters 15 and 16, The Believer and The Rescue. And holy shit, guys!
I wanna say one quick thing before we get into it. Boba Fett's theme is awesome.
Yeah.
All the new themes are awesome. I think.
For me, like I'm searching Spotify still to find the full Boba Fett theme that he put up on the soundtrack, and I'm just like, man, I could listen to that one just all day.
Even just when Boba Fett cleans up his armor,
it looks good.
It looks so good.
And again, he's still got that. He's got that dad belly, and I'm like,
It's like, damn, Boba Fett cleans up good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the first episode.
Yes, The Believer, episode 15, which I'm glad they did not spring him. They did not spring Mayfield, a.k.a. Bill Burr, which I was really scared they were going to do.
Well, I mean, they did. It just was less convoluted than it needed to be.
It wasn't a second rescue.
They did, though. They went to the planet where he was in prison, and they told a droid, hey, spring him. And the droid was like, all right, you're sprung. That was it.
Well, also,
wasn't he like, I don't even want to go or something?
Well, yeah, he was like, I'm good. Well, there's a bit when he sees Boba Fett, and he's like, oh, I thought you were the other one. And then Mando comes down and is like, oh, shit.
I love that.
I liked Bill Burr in that first episode, despite not loving that episode itself.
For sure.
I think he rules in this episode. Yeah. I think he's a good character, and it goes into a lot of like the behind the scenes of people's thoughts of the Empire and working in the Empire. And we get to see more evil Empire dudes get the shit kicked out of them.
If the prequels were like politicians discussing politics in Star Wars, you are now getting blue collar working class discussing politics in Star Wars through the Mandalorian, which has been hinted out a lot, but this episode really drove that home.
Yeah, you're actually getting soldiers who have served under because it's Mayfield, right? That's Bill Burr's character's name.
I think so.
For sake of argument, let's call him Mayfield. If I get it wrong, sorry.
Or we call him Bill Burr.
But because I didn't ask you. So, because Bill Burr once
we were right. It's Mayfield.
Yeah. So when Mayfield and Mando go into the mess hall to get Moff Gideon's coordinates, he sees an old commanding officer of his. He's like, shit, he's probably gonna recognize me. And then when you get to that whole thing,
I wanna put a pin there because I want to talk about that in a lot more depth. But I want to get there first.
We'll get to there. But I just love how you see how even people who used to be Imperials, because it wasn't like Iden Versio switch was kind of not the best, whereas this one's like cool. Actually, no, that may be a bad analogy.
Let's talk about. So let's rewind the episode. Let's talk about where we end up on that planet. I forgot the name of the planet. They've got a plan. It's not nobody. Boba's like, they're gonna recognize me. Carnage is like, gonna recognize me. It's got to be you. And so Din Djarin's like, okay,
let's just say they know my face.
Yeah.
I love that.
They might recognize his face. They're probably definitely gonna recognize his armor.
They're 100% gonna recognize his face because millions of them served in the army.
Yeah, clones.
Yeah, he looks like a clone.
Oh yeah, duh.
So he's like, can't be me.
Yeah, they know Boba Fett from Empire Strikes Back, and we're like, no, they know Boba Fett from clones.
Because there's millions of them served in the military.
Well, that's how Bo-Katan immediately recognizes them in the next episode.
Yeah, with the voice. Yeah.
Actually, I really enjoyed that part about Bo-Katan in the next episode. But
so Din Djarin,
because when he said, because my thought process when Boba Fett says they might recognize my face, I thought, oh, okay, because Boba Fett used to be like the go-to guy from the Imperial. So like, oh, hey, I know Boba Fett. I've come that he was a clone because I thought, because like the clones were phased out over the 30-some or
yes, but there's still many Imperials who served in the Republic Army.
Yeah,
and and that's why, like, because you said, like, he says, oh, well, they might recognize my face. That's not the line. He says, let's just say they'll recognize my face. It's a confidence. It's a, I know I'm a clone. They'll know.
Like, probably know I'm a clone.
Yeah.
But what we see in this episode is that Din is now willing to be like, okay, look, I'm still wearing a helmet. I'm not showing my face, so that's fine, right?
Just breaking the rules just like a teeny bit. It's a white lie.
And that's where Mayfield, right?
Mayfeld.
He says, you know, we all have these things that we cling to until it's convenient, until we get pushed to we can't anymore.
It's kind of right, which is
totally right.
Like you have your convictions until you need to break them, and he'll do anything to save that baby.
Because what he says is, so is the rule that you can never take off the helmet, or is the rule that people can never see your face? Which one is it?
Yeah.
Is it just whichever suits you?
Yeah.
Kinda. Yeah.
He's willing to do whatever.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more in the next episode. But like, it's just pointing out the hypocrisy of kind of both sides of Mandalore cult. And really kind of speaking about the larger, like, being so held to those ideologies to begin with.
Yeah.
The Jedi and the Sith are also good representation of the same thing.
Yes.
Maybe don't be so fanatical about any type of thing, because then you'll just turn you into kind of like a bad person, maybe.
Well, one of the takeaways I got from this, because I know we're talking about a fantasy universe and none of this is technically quote unquote real, but there's a lot of parallels to stuff that's going on in today's day and age. Whereas you can look at someone who's like hardcore religious, like, oh no, this is it. It's like, so what is it? Is it this way or this way?
Well, yeah. What Ben is suggesting is that it's a lot like people quoting the Bible but ignoring parts of the Bible. You know, like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we get in this episode, we get a Star Wars animation mainstay, pirates.
Arg.
When you can't use Imperials, you use pirates.
Yeah. Hey man, Space Raiders are always here.
Yep.
It reminded me of Reavers from what's it called, Firefly.
From Firefly, a little bit.
It's like a very Firefly-esque or Serenity universe. Like, oh man, these Reavers are coming to get now, boys.
They can't go too fast, but so it's like, can we speed it up? And Mando's like trying. One of the things I really like about this fight sequence, and this is such a small thing, the fight sequence of the pirates is such a small thing, is there is a gun throw. I love a good gun throw. Whenever there's a fight, I'm out of ammo, throw the gun. I love it. Mm-hmm. And in this one, they figure out a way, like, I don't know how, but I'm out of ammo. Throw the gun.
Out of clips, yeah. This show has done a great thing of it's like a very blaster focus, and then we have some lightsaber. But like when we get a good melee brawl, I'm a big fan, and like this show has given us so much of that, and I'm always thankful when just we can get rough and tumble and leave like all the technology out of it.
Sure. Megan brought up to what Brandon said when we were watching it. She's like, they ran out of ammo, and I'm like, it doesn't come from nothing. Yeah. You have to assume like it needs a charge or something. Like, it doesn't come from nothing.
It is kind of funny though. I think the only time you really ever deal with reloads or with is the shows, because I don't think the movies have ever dealt with anyone ever running out of ammo.
They've never dealt with anyone running out of ammo. They've definitely dealt with like a blaster jam or that kind of thing.
Yes,
which you have to assume works in a similar logic of how like a gun jam would work, which
absolutely
implies the existence of the ammo and everything.
It's just funny, people who aren't super into Star Wars like us, like I guess they never consider, oh yeah, you do have to reload a laser gun. Because like honestly, for 40 years, you really haven't had to show it. Like you just think, oh, it's unlimited. But like, no,
it's funny because if you look at the Imperial standard weapons, the E11s, they have a clip on the side. Yeah, that's obviously supposed to be like, and even think about it, because when I would play Star Wars video games, I'm like, because when I would watch the movies, I'm like, do you need to reload laser guns? I don't think you do.
Well, in the video games, you have to wait for it to like cool down or recharge.
That's in the recent Battlefront games, but in other games, like other Star Wars games, there's an ammo counter. I want to say Romano has an ammo counter, and some weapons in the Battlefront games, you do have a finite amount of ammo.
The original Battlefront games, like you get ammo canisters from a droid.
You do.
It's kind of all fake, doesn't it? I guess.
Right. And I mean, just real quick, I think the only reason why the main Battlefront games have unlimited ammo for the main weapon is just to minimize the amount that you need to be concerned about ammo packs. That's just something they decide not to deal with. It doesn't mean that those blasters in the context of the Star Wars universe don't need ammo. They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're the only convoy that made it through because they had Mando.
Because they're good at what they do.
They're heroes of the Empire.
But I love seeing that. Like the Emperor is like, yeah, all right, yeah, you made it, cool.
Yeah. I was watching. There's like little subtitles when I was watching. It's like glory to the Empire. It's like yeah, Imperials. Like yeah, glory to the Empire. I was like, this feels so weird.
Yeah, fascism. Hell yeah.
I'm like, I'm glad they made it through alive, but to see Imperials, to see all these stormtroopers and sand troopers just like cheering and going huzzah, yay! It's like, dude, if I had to choose, I'd be on the other side and I'd be blasting all y'all right now.
Well,
so
that's a bad plan. They have a plan.
Yeah,
I just because Bill Bars Mayfeld, he is only doing this for a better view, which Cara Dune offered him, and I'm like, when the episode started, I'm like, I find that a really shaky motivating factor, but okay, like enough that you believe he'll be trustworthy, that he's not going to be a problem, that he'd be willing to do it for just that. It's all kind of okay,
suspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously that's not how it turns out at the end of the episode. He gets much more for doing it the way that he does it, but I found that a little like simplistic.
Sure. Yes. No. I mean, it is. Yeah. Like it's a Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad thing of like you're gonna get 10 years off your life sentence. Like, I mean, am I gonna say no? Am I just gonna sit here instead of doing nothing? Like life sentence reduction would have been different. He's just getting a nicer place to do it. Yes.
Like, and that's the thing is like if she could offer him a discount on service, but she's made clear she can't because this isn't even supposed to.
I mean, we don't know how nice it could be. Like a luxury resort prison.
We see for the first time in this episode the interior of Boba Fett's ship, which I thought was kind of cool. We see the cockpit in Attack of the Clones, but we now see like how it moves inside when it's taking off, and like some like this office space it has, and like a cargo area. It's kind of cool.
I mean, well, it's the whole squad's hanging out in there at this point, so like it's got to have more room, right? I guess it's a again, like the next episode shows how big it is in scale, but I guess I didn't realize how big the ship was. It's a big ship.
Well, because I had the toy of the slave one from Attack of the Clones, and like all you could do is just fit Jango Fett in there, and, like do your thing.
I will say that like I definitely feel like that's a ship where they make it bigger on the inside than it actually
it's a TARDIS.
Can be.
It's a TARDIS
to film what they want, but I don't care.
Yeah,
no.
Because like just sizing that ship based off like yes, Attack of the Clones, but also Empire Strikes Back and things like that. I'm like, I kind of don't believe that this many people could fit in this kind of space with what's left of the ship, implying the way that the ramp works and the cargo and everything. And I'm like, but okay, sure.
It's a TARDIS, yeah. It's cool.
Well, what I did really enjoy is when we see them like sitting there, and as he's taking off, we see how the interior of the ship like moves to fit the vertical takeoff that the ship can do. I thought that was really neat.
That is neat. Yes. I guess I forgot that because I was asking like, does he like? How does he get out of the ship unless the thing doesn't turn? Because then he's just like this, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to wiggle my way out of here. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. It gyrates.
And that's what in Attack of the Clones, Boba Fett, is kind of like sitting like this, and he's got to like,
and he climbs up a ladder or something. Yeah. So I wonder if we'll ever see another. Oh wait, no. In Knights of the Republic, there are a bunch of slave type ships. We've seen other type of slave ones. They're cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure this is not the first time we see the last time we see the slave one.
Slave 2.
It's obviously not the last time.
No.
Okay. So let's
infiltration.
So they have to get to the shittiest security system in the world. You have a face, you can get in.
We had a long discussion with Megan about this because Megan's like, that's stupid. He has to have like had Imperial credentials at some point or something. I'm like, no, there's no reason for him to. That doesn't make sense. It clearly is just, do you have a face?
See, and the thing is like, I am more on Megan's side because the simple fact of
not against her.
Just having a face, just having a face is the dumbest thing on the planet. Because then, what kind of security is that? Literally, what kind of security is that? So like, I think that's just lazy. It's just so lazy.
It could be that the Imperials, because what we've seen, Thrawn being the exception, all the Imperials that we know of are like, especially the ones that have high ranking or are in the military, are human. They look like us. It could be that, say, a Mon Calamari were to try and get in, it would scan that and be like, "Oh, you're a Mon Calamari. You can't enter."
No, that's so weak to sabotage. Like, I don't think that's a good argument.
But they could be Imperial Mon Calamari.
Here's what I think it is. It's not there. This isn't something that this is a low security terminal. This is not something where like they're able to like get access to weaponry or something like that. This is coordinates. Like, he's accessing general Imperial coordinates, which is something where like even if you could find it out, they don't find it that vital to put like hard protections on. If you were able to get there, you'd have to have done a pretty impressive job up to that point as far as their logic is.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that it's scanning to approve your face. It's scanning your face so that they have a record of who looked at it. And so it takes the image of your face and stores it in the data system so that they can say who the heck did the thing that might have known the thing, and it'd be like, oh, that guy. Now look, I'm also saying that's stupid. I'm also saying, yes, it should be that it scans a face that it's recognized in the entire Imperial system. But I can also understand that it's way easier with how vast the Empire is to have a system that scans the face when it happens to keep a data log, rather than having a backlog of every freaking rotating door Imperial soldier that comes into the Empire.
Yes, you're right. But like, if I walk into any place that I don't work, I have to have some type of card to log into the system.
I am again qualifying that I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
But if I were to try to explain it, that would be my explanation. And I do think that it is a reasonable explanation to say that if this is a not important, this isn't like me logging into something that can massively affect the workflow. This is me checking in on like basic data information. This is like, I have scanned through my security gate to go to work.
Yeah.
Now I access the computer every employee can access without having to enter anything specific. That's what it's like. And it just takes a track record of who did it, because there are too many people who die in the Empire, and then new people come in the Empire all the time.
Sure.
And grunt soldiers can access this terminal because they don't make a big deal about regular soldiers accessing it, regular troopers.
I just don't think we should have to go through every single hoop you just said to have all this make sense. That's that's way too much.
I don't disagree with it.
I just thought it was to prevent droids from getting to the terminal.
But the droids work for the Empire. So like,
not many.
No, but we literally see the next episode of droid walking down a hallway. Like, they use droids.
You got the K2SO security droids, BB-9E.
But BB-9E is not built for another 30 years.
I know. That BB-9E is like 30 years later.
Wait.
I don't think it's a weak scene. I think it's a weak plot point to make the scene happen.
They could do the same thing with a hand scan and like make you're not a human or
That's
whatever.
Like, the scene works really well outside of that really ridiculous plot element. It's really just there to cause the tension of having to scan, and the guy from Kingsman and so many other things kind of get up and be like, I don't know who you are. Talk to me.
Yeah.
So I think the scene works, and I just think it's a stupid security system.
Yeah, I just think it's just like
it makes it that oh shit, Mando has to take off a helmet, and then
and like that's the other thing is that it is also there to be like to reinforce Mayfeld's thing of like, how far are you willing to go? And it's like, as far as I freaking need to. Take my helmet off. Let's do this.
And I do appreciate that. I just wish that like, okay, how committed are you? Could have been done in a better way. You just wish there
were like a throwaway line that just goes
anything.
Why, like, you know, you need a face, and it's like, it keeps a backlog of who logs into the system. The end.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
That's it. You explained it.
Yeah.
Great. Doesn't matter whose face, but it has to know who you are. You can't just like you can't scan in your with your helmet.
Why do you need a face? Oh, for security. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't ruin the episode or anything. It's just like, it just seems like an afterthought. Joe Chill shows up in this episode as the bad guy.
Yeah.
I just saw I was watching Kingsman: The Secret Service, and he's the guy who's got, hey, Eggsy, is Kingsman worth dying for? He's that guy.
Joe Chill shows up everywhere. He's great.
He's in a lot of shit. He's a really good actor. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's very menacing. Got a great smile.
And he's a great Imperial.
God, I don't remember that him and Kingsman, but I believe you.
In the train when it's the final mission after they get drugged.
He's in a movie briefly.
Yeah.
He's the guy. Yeah, when they're tied up.
Oh, when they're tied up.
Yeah, he's in a movie for like 2 minutes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot about it. Yeah, he's super menacing. They have a great dialogue, Mayfeld and this Imperial guy.
Yes.
Maybe one of my favorites from the season.
Yes, mine too.
These last 2 episodes have some extremely good shit involving, again, like blue collar people dealing with the rebels and the Empire. There's something really powerful, and Bill Burr gives like a speech that I'm just like, damn, you are a good actor. All right.
Go ahead.
The thing about Operation Cinder, which made me lit up.
Battlefront.
Yeah,
it came in here first.
Yeah,
and then it's also in Battlefront.
It's also in Battlefront.
Well, that was the thing about so Operation Cinder. Real quickly, I just need to gab about Operation Cinder for a second.
I'm going to gab about Operation Cinder.
When it was first introduced in Star Wars: Shattered Empire, I was like, "That's cool. It's a comic book thing." And then it was in Battlefront, and I was like, "That's cool. They introduced a comic book element into Battlefront 2. That's really neat." And now it's in Mandalorian. I'm like, man, sometimes synergy rules.
Yeah, sometimes it does really roll.
I was really excited when he was like, I defected because of Operation Cinder, essentially.
Yeah, like we killed like a whole bunch of people, and that's not what I signed up for. And I'm like, damn, you do got some morals. Like, you could be a criminal but still be a good person. Yeah.
No, one of the things I really love is when I get to, because I watched the show with Fanny, and she looks at me, she's like, what the hell is Operation Cinder? So I'm like, I get to teach now. So we paused the show.
I got the whiteboard. Operation Cinder.
And I explained to her what Operation Cinder was, and she was like, oh, that's actually really cool. I'm like, yeah, so he defected from the Empire because he saw one of the planets he was on burning Khan.
So did what's-her-face from Battlefront 2. Yeah,
Iden Versio.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why when I mentioned Iden Versio's switch is like, that's actually a bad analogy because they both defected because they saw fellow Imperials that
it's the same thing.
Yeah, they saw Operation Cinder glass plants that had massive populations on them. So
in many ways, Operation Cinder operates as, I'm pretty sure, I didn't look it up, I'm pretty sure I'm remembering it right. This is the massacre at Mai Lin that was massively publicized, that leaked out to the press during the Vietnam War, which is the thing that is. A lot of things had been coming out from Vietnam at that point, and people were getting angry, but it is considered like the straw that broke the camel's back as far as like public American support for being involved in Vietnam. Yeah. So this is very much like that for Imperials. This is the kind of thing where if you're a part of the Empire, you believe that you're doing the right thing and the rebels are terrorists, so you watch them do this thing and you have to question, where is our line?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is really cool when it's being utilized that way.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you got Palpatine going, Operation Cinder. If I can't rule the galaxy, nobody can. F all y'all.
Final order.
Well, it was more. Operation Cinder was his contingency plan to be like to make sure that the Imperials would stay in power even after his death. He didn't want anyone to know he died if he died.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is why he attacks. Which is why part of Operation Cinder was the destruction of Naboo, which is his home planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Destroy the records.
Anyway, that's a good book. Rocca wrote it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So Bill Burr just shoots that dude, right? Just like straight up.
Because how he's what they're working on in that facility is that's gonna make Burning Khan pale in comparison, and he's like, nah. So he gives this. I forgot what the line was because I'm still freaking out over what I saw last night, and he just straight blasts the dude, just shoots him right there, and then they get into a gunfight with all the Imperials. And he gives him the helmet back and he goes, I never saw your face.
Ben, Sparks is trying to say something. What did you say,
yeah,
Sparks?
Before he shoots him in the face, that character really emphasizes the, like the excuses that they'll justify to themselves. Had to make a lot of hard choices that day. And it's like, yeah, you had to make hard choices. This is very much a person in a seat of privilege looking down, being like talked to by the person, one of the people whose lives he held in his hands.
Yeah.
And that he's like all for the glory of the Empire.
And he's like, yeah, like we lost a lot of soldiers. Like, yeah, they all died for the Empire.
But they all died for the glory of the Empire, which is what it's kind of.
It's kind of what we're seeing now, where we have these politicians who are literally holding our lives in their hands and being like, well, we're doing our best. We're doing this for you. And it's like, you don't know what it's like to be us. You don't know what we're dealing with. You think you like to pretend that you do, but you don't.
None of them are scrappy nerf hergers on Tatooine, just trying to do some power converter shit. I don't get it.
But as Ben started to say, Bill Burr hands him the helmet and says, "I didn't see your face. Nobody did."
Yeah, because they killed them all in the room.
but I like that moment where he's just like, I get it. I didn't see your face. Put the helmet on. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that moment a whole lot for him.
You get to keep your thing. Well, because he was criticizing it earlier, and he's giving him his support. They did a really good job with his whole character throughout this scene when he almost walks in and sees the guy. I do want to spotlight, because we're talking a lot of positives, and there's a lot of good in this episode. If you're having a character who is saying, I don't want to go in that room because the dude will see me, do not also explicitly show shots of that character standing within eye view of the character he doesn't want to see him. That is frustratingly stupid.
He also kind of glances at him like for a second.
Exactly. Yeah. That is frustratingly stupid. He should have gone all the way around the corner. I can buy that Din is still within view of the guy, and I get that you want to make him suspicious to prompt him talking to him when he walks in the room. But don't have a character who's saying actively, I'm not going in there because he'll recognize me, while also standing within the field of view of him.
Brandon, I can't have Ben see me. Ben can't see me.
Right.
I can't allow that.
It's a very simple staging thing, and it's little things like that where I'm like, this is so like, and it's not like, oh, it's kind of. He's still 100% in his view. Mm-hmm. They're still kind of glancing at each other. I'm like, this is what?
He even recognizes him
in the room. That would have been less suspicious at this point.
With how much
recognizes him too. So it's like, if he recognizes you, dude, run, get the frack out of there.
And he doesn't recognize him.
No,
so
because he thinks he's very important. Like,
yes.
Like, he could recognize me because this guy's interacted with billions of people who he clearly never gave a shit about. Which he makes obvious, and he's like, nah, I don't remember him.
Which is I do like that part, because I was gonna be like, okay, he clearly noticed them, but it is nice to like, oh, this like guy means nothing to you.
Yeah, because the out of order behavior is what's suspicious.
Yeah,
but he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Shootout.
So they shoot their way out.
Mm-hmm. Pew pew pew.
Then there's a sky.
Really good.
Blows up the facility, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Yeah. That's a really good moment for him.
No, it's a really
love all the action of them going out the window too. Just where they like bend down and shoot the trooper that's crawling out the window and just leave his body there to block it.
Or even when there's like a few troopers that get out and they fall. So many.
They get shot by Fennec and
Fennec and Cara Dune.
You're about to say something that I also felt, Ben.
Yeah, I know I've been saying it for a while, but there have been so many great chances in the series for Wilhelm screams.
Yeah,
it's done. It's been retired. Wilhelm,
it's dead.
Wilhelm has been retired. Unfortunately,
this is the episode, the only episode, because I honestly never think about it until I hear it. But this is the only episode where I saw people flying. I was like, man, the Wilhelm scream would have been good there.
No, we talked about it a couple episodes ago. There's one specific.
They went to the one where they went to the Imperial outpost with Cara and
a dude falls or something,
and the guy like falls off the thing towards the lava, and it's like, well, that should have been.
And he does like a fake Wilhelm.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. And like the other two troopers just look down and look at each other and like, nope.
Here's the thing: I would be full on board for them retiring the Wilhelm scream if they replaced it with Tom Cruise's scream from The Mummy.
I wouldn't be on board with that.
I'm not on board.
It's a cute and funny joke, but no.
I will take a funny edit of it, but I can't be having my Mando Tom Cruising it.
You know what? The way I feel the Wilhelm scream is, I know it's been in so many other films. It's a sound editor's joke to the director. I get it. But at the same time, that's the Star Wars thing. Because a lot of people's first time hearing the Wilhelm scream was in Star Wars. That's where they got it from.
I think it even transcends Star Wars. Like, it's in so many other things too. It's just like it's the go-to.
It feels like it's very prominent in Star Wars because it happens in like almost all of the movies.
Absolutely, yeah.
Up to a point.
Like hell, even time when I'm watching Lord of the Rings: Two Towers, when that elf flies over the thing, you hear the Wilhelm scream. It's one of the best parts of the movie.
I will say, despite the no Wilhelm, they do a good job of including old sound effects and like blast them and like what was that like old like I love all the stormtrooper talk.
Especially how the stormtroopers sound under the helmets. They sound like they did back in the original.
Yeah, I love it.
So before they're rescued, Boba Fett is chased by 2 TIE fighters.
Mm-hmm.
That is before he comes down and gets them.
Yeah. And
I know what you're going with this. Oh,
either way, what happens when he's being chased by those two TIE fighters? I made a noise I didn't think my body was capable of making.
Well,
Yeah,
I turned sonic bomb, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I turned to him like the second he was flying. I'm like, he's using a seismic bomb. Like, this is a fan service show. You got to do it. And then literally, as soon as I stopped talking, it happened. And I'm like, yeah.
I was so excited to see it again.
It drops. It's like I just want to hear that sound.
Boom! It's so good.
I don't watch Attack of the Clones many times, but when I do, I always appreciate the scene when Jango Fett is trying to blow up Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Rings of Geonosis.
Attack of the Clones is not great.
No.
However, one of its best things is showing why the Slave One is such a good ship for outmaneuvering other ships.
Yes.
And that credit goes to that movie.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for that, and I'm glad that they acknowledged it with that little tribute moment.
True.
As a as a prequelist, like seeing that moment, I'm like, oh baby, like legitimately, Zara thought it was crazy because what happened was, I was like, yes. She thought it was nuts. She was like, I can't watch the show with you anymore.
I mean, I shared with you guys like the meme picture. It's like when Boba drops the seismic bomb, and you're like, oh, yes.
It's a third touchdown, as we call it.
It is.
Yeah.
Hell, even Fanny was excited when he dropped the seismic bomb and not only that, it was awesome because it split a TIE fighter in half.
It's not on the monumental level, but it's like the cat picking up Mjolnir. You're just like, yeah.
Yes.
To me, in my vein.
Give me that Star Wars nerd stuff in my veins.
But Mayfield is able to get away, and I love how stupid he is because it's just like he died. It's like, what? Are you guys serious? Can I? I'm gonna go.
The subtext.
I'm gonna leave. I'm okay.
I don't even think he's being stupid. I think he's just being like
cautious.
You're gonna get in trouble. Are you? Yeah. All right.
Am I getting punked?
Is this a mean joke? Because Mando's done mean jokes. I thought that was really nice that they kind of reward his contribution that way. He's just on some random ass backwater outer rim planet, but
better than prison.
Yeah.
I'm sure he can get off somehow.
Oh, I'm sure. I would almost like it better if he didn't. I would like it better if we revisit him like 5 years later.
He's got a family.
And he's just like domesticated on that planet.
Has an alien wife.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? This place is actually pretty chill. I really like this place.
Like a farmer.
So the episode ends with Mando sending Moff Gideon the same message that Moff Gideon sent him. Well, not sent, but
shouted into the building in the end of the first season. Yeah.
Yep.
You have something I want speech.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting leading into the next episode, the rescue.
I'm so glad this did not get spoiled for me. I am so happy.
I deliberately watched them the midnight they drop because I don't want to get spoiled because I'm addicted to Sinead and I can't stop it. It's my own fault, but that's my own contribution to my own self.
Disney Plus crashed at midnight because literally millions of people were trying to watch it at once. That was fun.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
I got spoiled.
Oh, okay.
Indirectly too, and like
indirectly.
I hope it wasn't for me.
Mark Hamill spoiled me.
Oh, his tweet. Yeah.
His Instagram post.
And it's like, it sucks because you don't even have to like be on Twitter to get spoiled because everybody involved is talking about it.
All that happened. This was this morning. So, and look, I didn't watch it the night it came out or yesterday because I was doing finals. So I just I was busy. Didn't have time. We wanted to watch it last night, but it was too late. And I'm like, all right, well, we'll wait till today. And like literally 20 minutes before we're going to watch the episode, I checked someone's notification on Instagram that I wanted to read. I go to it. Cool. I hit to go to the main feed on Instagram. First thing that's up, Mark Hamill. Anything good on TV? And I'm like, cool.
He did the same thing on Twitter, and then Ming-Na Wen was like, "I don't know, you tell me, winky faced." And I'm like, "You guys can't even wait a day for fans." It sucks.
And it's whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't get it because
I don't care.
I saw Mark Hamill's tweet about, did you watch something cool on TV today? I'm like, oh, he must be talking about Mandalorian because I don't know why. And then I watched him like, oh, you cheeky son of a bitch.
Here's the thing then. Like the moment I saw it, I knew because I knew everyone was talking about some big appearance spoiler. That much without me going anywhere was seeping into my brain just from like even loosely having to go on the internet to work on my finals. That much was around. Big major appearance in the Mandalorian finale. And I'm like, okay. So seeing Mark Hamill go, anything good on TV, I'm like, okay, well, I know the thing.
Do we want to talk about him now, or do we want to get through the episode and then talk about it?
God, no, because it's too tied into like what it means for the future of the show. So let's get to them at the end.
Okay, so the episode starts with them going to find Bo-Katan.
Mm-hmm.
The episode starts with a space dog fight,
Lambda
chasing that scientist man, and I love it.
I was playing Squadrons earlier, so I know that those shuttles are called Lambda shuttles because I killed a whole bunch of them.
Fancy man over here, knowing the words.
Look at you knowing all the names of the shuttles and stuff.
We should call this the Fancy Nerd Podcast.
Ooh.
So
I got cool glasses.
So I really like the Bo-Katan scene because Bo-Katan's like, "You're not a Mandalorian. I've heard your voice thousands of times before."
Yeah. Hold on, we got to talk about the Lambda shuttle. So much good stuff happens there, my guy.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. The Imperials there have a terrific conversation with Cara
I'm not
Dune.
with him. I'll make a deal. Kill.
There's a terrific my favorite exchange from this episode. Was the guy going like, "Oh, I was there when Alderaan got blown up, and I was on your
tier.
I was on the Death Star, and then Cara Dune's like, which one? Which is hilarious.
Like, that's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the line is like, do you know how many millions of people died on those bases? Watching Alderaan die was like a gift, and that is the single best line there because it is so heavy. Because literally, yeah, you don't think about it. Millions of people died on the Death Stars, and yeah, a lot of them are probably bad people. Some of them were just engineers, and not a lot of people think about that shit. And I'm like, oh man, that is really heavy. And this guy was there, and he is an asshole, but he also saw millions of people die, and he thinks doing that to another person.
To be fair, and to be fair, here's the thing, like because he has a point. Millions of people were killed in the Death Star, and we treat that as like a wonderfully heroic event because the good guys did it. And it's like, yeah, but and it's a good point, and he makes it. And I love the way that he goes after her because he recognizes she's from Alderaan. And he says anything like that to wipe out terrorism in the galaxy, believing that Alderaan was just a terrorism planet.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Yeah. They attacked Alderaan first. Yeah. That also killed millions of people.
Yeah.
And so like, and then this isn't saying like, oh, his point isn't valid. It's saying that this is really showing they both do it. They both like justify it and say, well, you know, it's the Empire. Oh no, it's a bunch of terrorists.
Yeah.
They kill millions of people, innocent people.
And if Princess Leia is to be believed in episode 4, where she says that Alderaan has no weapons, that they are peaceful, then they attacked a non-aggressive planet.
Well, right. Tarkin even says like, we did it to make a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we know, yeah, Alderaan's not a threat to us. It's not a terrorist hub. We did it because it's a populated planet in the core, and
everyone knew Organa was one of the like supporters of the rebellion.
Yeah. They did it to make a statement.
They did. But that was a really good scene between that Imperial and Cara Dune, because I actually have wondered why she has like a little
nice shot.
Again, like. Just making an analogy again to like our real world, Alderaan is like going into Iraq and taking out Saddam Hussein and saying, look, we got the people who did 9/11, when everybody knew publicly, like what was being shared was that Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11.
We're going after nuclear weapons that aren't there.
And that's what it is. That's what the Empire did. They said, these are the terrorists. These are the bad guys. Boom. Took care of them. Look at that. Look at that clear away and go.
Are we the bad guys?
I mean, for those of you listening, George Lucas was very clear. The Empire is America.
Yes.
Hate to break it to you.
It's a Vietnam allegory. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. It's good stuff. But yeah, I thought that was just a really juicy scene. And like, yes, even though the Empire is bad, we don't often get their fanaticism. And again, he's not right, but yes, like there were probably some innocent people who did die. And it is nice to see the rebellion have some of that casualty as well, which is what Rogue One did really well, showing that the rebels will do whatever they need to do to win.
Right.
Which is aspects I always love, a little more gray area.
It is like one of the only times, certainly the only times in live action media where you get to see someone who supported the Empire saying, yeah, killed a bunch of innocent people I knew too.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of good people dead because of you. You killed millions. You just didn't care.
It's spicy.
And it's good because it supports the reason for like why so many people would still follow the Empire. To their logic, terrorists blew up the Death Star twice, killing a ton of people.
2 Pentagons,
people.
Double Pentagon attack. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Pentagon thing. So
Bo-Katan's cool. You're right.
Now they go to Bo-Katan.
She shoots him right in the face too. It's a good shot.
I really like that scene where Boba fights the other Mandalorian. I forget her name.
Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks. The Mandalorian Sasha Banks.
Yeah. She's a real wrestler and she does her own stunts. So like she's just doing sick like knee takedowns and like DDTs, like real wrestling moves. I'm like, this is why you get wrestlers. It's cool.
Well, I remember exactly why I wanted to bring this up is because I really like Bo-Katan's prejudice towards what she sees as a clone wearing Mandalorian armor.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't care that, as far as anyone's concerned, he's Jango Fett's son.
Mm-hmm.
She knows he's a clone, so she said that's why she says you're not a Mandalorian. It doesn't matter what the lineage is. Like you're not a Mandalorian because you came from a petri dish.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Well, that's that there have been people online who have not watched the shows that think she is more antagonistic than a good person, and I see the way that they're portraying her. People will believe she might be a bad guy. But I know she's not. But she's very antagonistic to our hero. So I think people are making bad assumptions about this character without knowing who she was in the past. And I think that's very interesting because they are portraying her in a kind of more like not mean, but like malicious way almost.
We do have to recall that she was part of Death Watch with Jon Favreau's character.
That's what I was going to bring up. Is that she is from the more militaristic belief systems of Mandalore.
Yeah.
She is not necessarily like automatically a good guy. Mm-hmm. It's just her interests have always aligned more with the people who hate the Empire, hate the Separatists.
Yeah.
That's really more what it is. It's not that, she's altruistic. She has her own particular desires and plans for Mandalore.
Okay, yeah.
I like that. I don't think so it's not necessarily she's basically an isolationist. Like she doesn't like that Mandalore became pacifist under her sister's rule, so that's why she joined Pre Vizsla, Jon Favreau's character. But during the time of the Empire, she hated the Empire more.
Right. It is interesting for her to be more prejudiced towards him, a clone, just because of the clone thing, than towards having no apparent prejudice for Din as part of what she knows as the cult of the Watch and being a foundling. She doesn't have an inherent prejudice for him. In fact, she's welcomed him into the Mandalorian culture, essentially. Mm-hmm. But she does have it towards a clone. Yeah. And that's interesting that like she draws that distinction and line there, because in many ways you could argue that Boba is a slightly more pure representation of the Mandalore that I think Bo-Katan cares about than Din is.
Sure. And Jango fought apparently in the Civil War.
And to her credit, Bo-Katan says he's got good fighting spirit, and if more people had been like him, they wouldn't have lost the planet.
Yeah.
So like she respects him for being a good fighter, at least in that moment. But yeah, it is interesting that she comes out of the gate with that kind of hate for him.
I mean, I can imagine, like you said, Brandon, like the clone voice thing. I can imagine how jarring that must be for her. Like maybe to hear a clone's voice for a decade at this point, maybe longer. And I'm like, oh yeah, that would be pretty weird to see like your people's like culture on a clone. Like, so I can imagine why that would piss her off so much.
Yeah.
She probably didn't know Jango Fett that well, but she knew Rex and Cody and Fives, and like she knew all these clones, hundreds, millions of clones. They heard the same voice come out of, and then all of a sudden hearing that voice coming out of her armor.
Yeah.
That must be tough.
Yeah. That must, and I can only assume that after Order 66, that and once the Empire and when the Republic became the Empire, all those clones just pointed their blasters at her and the rest of the Mandalorians. So
it's the joke that Chris, my manager to comics, said. It's like the reason why the Empire was able to take over so quickly has been when Palpatine was like, we're now the Empire. Everyone's like, I don't want that. Let's turn around. Bunch of Imperial soldiers all of a sudden here that you welcomed with open arms just a minute ago.
You spend years in placing a military across the universe, and then you're surprised when they all turn against you and you can't do anything about it. You open the door, buddy. That's what makes the plan genius.
It's like,
awesome.
Hey, we're the Republic. We're here to fight for freedom. Cool. We're the Empire now. You're under our rule. What?
No, you could be free. You just have to live under my boot. It's still freedom.
Right. Okay. So they hatch a plan to save Grogu.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna go get Grogu.
Yeah.
They're gonna use the Lambda that they stole, the Lambda shuttle that they stole, and pretend to be in a dogfight. Like, help! We need help. We're gonna land in you.
We get a really cool in the ship scene that's just all about Mando and Bo-Katan, and also, where's the other dude they were traveling with?
Did he die?
No.
I was also curious.
I think he just stayed on the shuttle.
But he's not mentioned or referenced at all
the time. Like he stayed on the shuttle when they were in the bar. He stayed on the shuttle when they were making.
He's like,
plans. He stayed on the shuttle.
He gets out of the bathroom. Where'd everyone go?
Exactly.
Yeah. He's just gone, and I'm like
he's there when he's there when they mention when I also like how he has a burnt ear after where Cara Dune shot that one Imperial.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, he's like, no, this isn't he's like, I'm done with this. I'm just like, don't just please don't murder me.
No. Ben, you misunderstood. I'm not talking about the scientist.
The Mandalorian.
The male Mandalorian that traveled with Bo-Katan.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the scientist. Never mind. Forget everything I just said. I don't know where the frack he is.
No, yeah, he just not there. I guess
he definitely didn't die. I don't have a good memory, but if you guys say he didn't die, maybe he's just like, oops, scheduling Star Wars.
But you bring up a good point. The scientist also just kind of disappears from the plot of the narrative. But that wasn't what I was focusing on.
Like after he helps them hatch the plan of what, and he's like, no, I'm not telling you any subterfuge. This is what's going on here. They got dark troopers. They're droids. They're really powerful. You got to watch out for those guys because they will F you up.
Oh yeah, that's a good line of, we took out the weakest part of it finally, the human part. Now it's just a droid. I'm like, oh my God. It's like the snake eats the tail. We're just back to droids again. Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. So the dogfight's clearly not working. We see Moff Gideon's point of view, and he's like, "This is not my shuttle."
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's suspect immediately.
Yeah. Good plan though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I love this Star Destroyer's design where the ties come from the middle, the center. So the Lambda shuttle just comes in, and the guy's like, "Don't come in here. This is where we exit. This is an exit only."
No.
And then they land, and then
get that out of the launch field. Yeah. and then
some good lots of stormtrooper deaths this episode. Tons of deaths.
A lot of really cool action sequences as they're making their way to the bridge where they think that Moff Gideon is.
We got some cool Thunder Sister action.
Yeah. Girls get it done this episode. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and I mean that actually. I've been saying that a lot now, but I mean it actually when I say it, unlike being it as a joke from the boys. Girls get shit done.
I don't even think of it as a joke because I'm again, despite what Kripke says, I'm like,
it works.
I consider that moment entirely sincere and badass.
Yeah.
And so girls get it done is yeah, they did.
They do. Sasha Banks does a sweet rocket knee to a stormtrooper's face, and I just think that's always so cool. She just hits him in the face.
Yeah.
I always love it using the rockets.
I thought it was funny when Cara is shooting and then her gun instantly jams. She's like, and she's like, my gun's jammed. Then she's in the elevator and it's son of a muss, whatever. Their version of son of a bitch, where it's I love it. I love Star Wars swears, scruffy looking nerf herder.
Thank Ferrick.
I love when she her gun jams and she's like, I'll use my other guns.
It's melee time, bitches.
I really love Fennec. I think she's a great character. I'm really glad they brought her back. this season.
I love all 4 of those ladies going and doing their business.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mando had one job, and he can't get there fast enough to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
He closed the door on them.
Yeah.
Except for
Yeah.
one.
Just in
All
time.
but one. We
then,
were sitting there when it happened, and we were like, why would you put this very important robotic force in an airlock?
Because
why would you do that? Obviously, we know now it didn't matter.
Yeah.
But you got to think about it. Why would you do that?
Well, it's the same question. To me, it's the same question. Why did the AT-ATs walk so slowly? Why aren't they on wheels?
Because they're really big.
Well, they're like elephants.
They can't get over
They still have
snow
to
on
maneuver.
wheels.
Well, but they're not meant for snow terrain. The idea is that is the imperial hubris of like nothing can stop us.
Yeah, I guess. I just think it's their most important and powerful device, and it's like they put it in
store it in the room that you can immediately eject it from the ship.
I just think it's just poor planning. I think it's just, and maybe it's hubris. I just think it's also.
But I accept it when they can fly back to the ship from space.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, then the only reason that it would be a problem is if whatever invading force that's ejected them also got to the ship and made hyperspeed before they got there, which they also could have done, but they didn't do.
If the droids didn't come back, I would actually have a problem with it, but I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny that I'm like, wow, you guys are dumb.
Yes, if they didn't come back, I'd be like, that was a lot of setup for
Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, because when the droids get out of the airlock, I'm like, can't they fly? It's like they flew to get Grogu to take him to the ship. So I'm like, putting him in the airlock's not going to help. They can fly.
Yeah, I remember a couple episodes back when they stole Grogu and they flew out of an airlock. I just assumed that it's just to deploy them easier.
Yeah, probably.
That's actually a good point.
I mean, they're not organic, so you don't need ratios to keep the oxygen in or anything. So,
I think because obviously our main characters didn't think that they would fly back to the ship either. I think there is a logic of we've never seen anything where like a cybernetic droid that doesn't have the kind of stuff that ships do has been able to propel itself back to a ship in space. Whether that's because it gets too cold or whatever. I just assume that they also assumed it can't be done. So I do think that's supposed to be an innovation on the Death Troopers.
Yeah,
sure.
There's a great scene of.
I certainly didn't think when they were ejected into space, I'll just come back.
Yeah, I didn't think that either. Yeah. There's a great scene of the Thunder Sisters killing some stormtroopers, and then the 2 Rocket Sisters jump down while troopers come from the back. They're like, oh no, they're surrounded or whatever. And then the Rocket Sisters come back up and shoot them from behind. I'm like, yeah. That's it.
I love how you call them the Rocket Sisters.
The other 2, you didn't even know what they.
Yeah.
they just swan dive off the bridge, whereas Kara and Fennec are trying to cool. We got some stormtroopers down. And they're like, drop your weapons. Ah, shit! And then surprise! Pew, 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 pew.
I think the fight with Din and the Dark Trooper is really good, especially when he's just banging his face into the wall.
What a headache he must have! Oh my god!
Thank God, Beskar does not break easy.
Oh, but they also one of the things that they mentioned in this episode is that the Darksaber, a lightsaber, can't cut through pure Beskar.
Yeah,
which is Din's armor.
Yeah, because we see later.
I didn't ask you.
They show later that Sasha Banks gets moited just by some laser fire. So it's like, okay, they don't have pure Beskar, which sucks for them.
That wasn't Sasha Banks.
Oh, that was Bo-Katan?
That was Bo-Katan, and she doesn't get murdered.
Nope.
It was
yeah, obviously she doesn't get murdered
because she gets up and she's limping back, and she's like, "Okay, I'm good." Just pointing her gun.
I thought she got. Oh, never mind. Oh well.
I know the scene you're talking about because I spent the entire scene after that being like, "Okay, this is cool, but what happened to Bo-Katan?"
Yeah, I gotcha.
She gets shot because it's after Moff Gideon goes back. She gets shot, but she doesn't die. Because luckily her Beskar armor still saves her. Because we see her standing up at the end when,
I don't think her armor could withstand a lightsaber.
No.
But I do think it can withstand blaster fire.
Although, I do have a question, because when we saw Ahsoka fight the Magistrate quite a few episodes back, when the Magistrate was using the pure Beskar spear, that spear wasn't heating up.
I thought it was.
I couldn't tell.
I don't think it was because I also noticed that Ben.
In this fight, when Mando was fighting Moff Gideon, which was a great exchange, by the way. I just love Giancarlo Esposito as a bad guy. I know he's gonna get typecasted forever, but goddamn, I don't care. Yeah. But when they were fighting, you saw the Beskar heat up from the intense heat of the Darksaber. So I don't know if that's just a property that the Darksaber has, or they just the editing team forgot to put in the red hot metal from.
I'd have to go back and watch the episode. I do recall thinking that it was cool that it heat up when I watched that episode, but I could be mistaken.
I've watched almost all these episodes twice now, and I'm pretty sure I'm with you, Ben. Again, my eyes could just be wrong. But when it was red here, I was like, oh, that's interesting, and I didn't even think about the fight previously. But I don't remember any previous hotness.
I don't know much about the Darksaber. I don't know if that
it's just a black bladed lightsaber.
Black lightsaber. It just looks different.
Yeah, it just looks different. So I don't know if maybe it's I don't know, but it does look so cool.
Yeah, it's a good fight, good exchange. That poor baby.
I do really like that moment with Din there, and he's just like, I don't care what happens to the Darksaber, I just want the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he's like, wait, I have to expose some things about this.
I really like what Giancarlo Esposito's character tells us, what Moff Gideon tells us with everything he does in that scene, because it's all, assume I know everything. I've already got what I want. I've got the blood. Take the kid. I keep the Darksaber. Assume I've got everything. And he's like, he makes that deal, still planning to, and you'd think he would have done it better, to try and cut up Mando. Because, if I were going to try and cut him in the back after I'd cut a deal like that, I'd go for, that area under his helmet.
I wouldn't
go straight for the middle of his pure.
I also wouldn't go,
back.
do it. Maybe, sneak up behind him and then turn it on. Not sneaky.
When Kylo Ren used the lightsaber to punch a hole in that dude's in the Praetorian Guard's face at the end of at that scene, where she's like, "Let me just zap." Okay, he did.
I noticed something, and I could be completely off base, but I think Moff Gideon was trained by Vader.
In his the lightsaber fight,
his fighting style seemed a lot like Vader from Return of the Jedi. I could be off base.
I cannot confirm or deny.
I can neither confirm or deny, but I do see some similarities with Vader's. No, that's not.
I'm not asking you guys to confirm. I know it's not. We haven't seen it happen, but I'm just saying. I think it's there in his fighting style.
Would Vader train someone that's not Force sensitive?
If Palpatine told him to.
I don't think this is a Star Killer situation.
Well, I mean,
or it could be that Moff Gideon was such a fan of Vader that he just watched recordings of Vader's fights.
Like Taskmaster?
I don't know.
I mean, obviously, he has an idolization because Moff Gideon's armor is designed to be Vader reminiscent.
Yeah.
And also, when we get to later, he knows that's Luke. He knows that's Luke.
Yeah.
He's afraid because he knows that's Luke. He knows that's the person who killed Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think he has a level of Vader isolation where idolization where either one of you are correct. He could have been trained or he could just have paid a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he clearly idolized the figure.
Before we get to Luke, we should talk about the fact that Din does win the Darksaber from Gideon and decides to hand it to Bo-Katan.
Yeah. They got the blood, so they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And the way that he words it does make it sound like it is
Palpatine.
For Palpatine.
100%.
So
to restore order to the
restore
Empire.
Order to the Empire, yeah.
Bring Daddy back alive.
Which is fine. Cool plan. That exists, so build to it. He wins the fight and he gets the Darksaber. And he's impressed that he's not going to be killed, but I think he had some amount of assumption about that already. This is very much I love the way he plays through this scene into the next with at every angle he thought he'd won. Because he was like, I'll win him in the deal. I'll win him in the betrayal. I'll win him in the Death Troopers coming aboard. I'll win him because they're not going to want to kill me right away. Either way, any outcome of this, I win. Was his logic. And then and then Luke ruins that.
I mean, like you said, like his task is done. Yeah. Like whatever happens to him,
his very comfortable overconfidence about it the whole time, where he's like, either way, I've won this exchange in every possible avenue except the one he couldn't see coming.
Yeah.
Also, before we get to Luke, I want to say I like how when Din is trying to hand the Darksaber to Bo-Katan.
That's what I wanted to talk about. Yes.
And Bo-Katan is like, I can't take it, and then Moff Gideon essentially explains, like, you have to win in combat. He's like, he's trying to get this over with, and Bo-Katan's like, shit.
So here's the thing about that. So real quickly, I love the line, I yield, just take it. I like that. I like that line a whole lot. The idea that you have to win the Darksaber is in fact how Maul got it, but it's not how Bo-Katan got it. Bo-Katan got it because Sabine literally gave it to her.
So
I watched the clip earlier.
Yeah. I wonder if it's different if it is like the acknowledged leader handing it over and all of the clans that are there saying, yeah, do it. And that's why Bo-Katan could accept it then. Because she was reluctant at first even to take it at that moment.
Sure.
I wonder if it's because of the clan support and it coming from an acknowledged leader that it becomes acceptable. And that's like the only exception.
Isn't Mandalorian the accepted leader then? Because he has a Darksaber, so
But she doesn't have the clans, is my point. Is like she didn't have representatives from the other clans.
This is
like that moment did.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, like, that being said, this is also just like what Bill Barr was doing in the other episode, where it's challenging how long do you believe your beliefs up to what point, kind of thing. It is a criticism of how we know Din has had his cultist beliefs. Bo-Katan has hers too, and these are them, and this is where one is coming up, and what is she going to do about it? I do think, because this is Filoni still involved, that Bo-Katan having reluctance until the clan leaders told her to take it is the key differing factor here. That was a choice that was enforced by a lot of people who believe in her, who she believes in, who said, you should be the person to do this. You should be the leader, which is different from this dude being like,
Yeah, no, that's true. I guess just for me, it's a situation with that stupid face scan thing. Just give me one line where it's like, like the last way I took it, it's not going to be that way. I'm going to earn it this time.
For sure.
It's just something. Because like, again, we have an established thing of how she got it last time. And if you're not going to do that, you have to tell me why you're not doing that. And again, it doesn't break the episode or anything, but it's just like, Dave Filoni worked on that show. He should know, he should know that.
And
it's just like a line could fix this very easily.
Sure. I would make the argument that it's less him feeling like he's creating a continuity problem with not acknowledging the end of Rebels, and more him trying to resolve continuity by trying to rework the Darksaber's history that had been known prior to that moment anyway. We did know that, if you watch Clone Wars, you knew that was how the Darksaber worked. You knew that was part of how people got it.
Yeah.
So when you watch the moment in Rebels, it would be the same problem. You'd be criticizing it just the same. So I do think the same logic would apply.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And then we can accept why we have to have a discussion about it in this matter.
No, it's true.
It could also be it's what Moff Gideon said. It's about the story. Like the story, Bo-Katan getting the Darksaber in the first place was that she united Mandalore through the Darksaber. Mandalore was a united front thanks to her and the Darksaber. Now it's just some dude gave it to me.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right.
It's got to be worth the
I didn't quest back and conquer Moff Gideon, who stole it.
Some
get it back.
Guy gave it to me. Yeah. That's I'll accept that. I like it. Yeah.
So a lone X-wing shows up.
And again, the more important thing is just about that as a final note. I think the more important thing that the show does execute really well with it, regardless of its presence of continuity, is it is a criticism of Mandalorian cult from both sides. We have done the stuff criticizing what Din Djarin believes. Now we are criticizing the stuff Bo-Katan believes as well. It is very much a question of, in that same moment, if she wanted to, if Luke hadn't shown up and that kind of stuff, that she could have gone, wow, you just take off your helmet. It's the same logic that she could apply to him. This is why it's important, that kind of thing. We'll have to see how that plays out later.
True.
Yeah. So a lone X-wing shows up.
Yeah.
Right. And if I didn't know already, I would have known now.
When I saw the X-wing, I didn't immediately think about it, but as it docked, I turned to Zara and I go, shit. Shit.
when Carr said, "Oh, one X-wing, we're saved," I'm like, who do I know has one X-wing?
Well, I literally turned
sarcastic.
I turned to Zara and I was like, what, Grogu called the Jedi. What Jedi do we know flies around in an X-wing? And she's like, who? I go, are you kidding me?
Yeah, because all the
Mace Windu.
All the Death Troopers have. God, could you imagine? It's just like you see when the lightsaber is in color, not on the view screens, but you see it in color. It's purple, and you go, wait.
Listen, I knew. At this point, I knew it was Luke. But when we had the security camera footage, I'm like, it could be purple.
It could be purple. I know that would have been something. And then had it been, I would have lost my mind. I would have been like, that's incredible. I don't even care. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So when we were just looking at the view screens, we saw the one Jedi. Fanny thought it was Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And she's like, is it Ahsoka? I'm like, it can't be Ahsoka. She's like, what do you mean? It's like Ahsoka uses 2. He's only using 1, and she doesn't fly around in an X-wing. Who do you think?
Right, Ahsoka never had anything to do directly with the rebellion like that. So.
Once you see the glove, you know.
Once
I saw the green lightsaber, I had to reel myself in because I almost screamed. And I was watching this at 2:00 in the morning, so my roommate was asleep. I didn't want to wake him up, and I was like, "It's love."
I have always felt, even from the beginning of the first season, I always felt that Luke Skywalker's involvement in the show was inevitable, and the only thing stopping his involvement in the show would be Lucasfilm being like, "No, he's a movie character. We can't have him in a TV show," which is the only reason why I ever questioned that he would ever show up on the show. But ever since we saw Grogu, I knew that he had to be involved in some way, shape, or form.
I didn't, because I didn't want it.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
But when we get to Mandalorian, when we see Grogu and we know that Grogu can use the Force, the thing about it was there are technically only 2 people who are quote unquote Jedi after Return of the Jedi. If you're not willing to end Ezra's story yet, or if you're not willing to tell us if Cal Kestis is alive or not after the events of Jedi Fallen Order sequel,
or any other character that they've created,
or anyone. But Luke, knowing that Luke rebuilds the Jedi Order and seeing that Grogu is Force sensitive and being like, we need to take him to his people, to me, that always meant it had to end up with Luke. I didn't think we'd see him in season 2.
Yeah.
But I always assumed that Luke would show up eventually in some way.
I want to, because there's a lot here. I want to talk about just what we see first, and then let's talk about how we feel about what it means.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So let's just talk through what happens in the episode, which is that Luke shows up and he starts taking out the Death Troopers, which I think is cool. I think also some of it is drawn out really, really long, too long. Certain shots, not necessarily of the actual action, but of there's too many cuts to them and the elevator and waiting. I'm like, I get it. It's Luke. It's a big deal. Yeah. I understand. But you don't need to cut to every single person getting an individual shot 3 times of waiting for him to show up. I'm like, I get what we're doing. Move it along.
My favorite part of this of the sequel to the Rogue One Vader scene is the music.
Music's really good.
The music is insanely beautiful, and it's like a mix that I've never heard before. It's so strong, and I was moved more by the music because I knew it was Luke, and I'm like, man, this music is working for me so hard. That's what Star Wars does so well is that beautiful John Williams score. It was really effective. It's a really good action scene. I do agree. No, I get it. It's Luke. I get it.
His action is not the problem. Yeah. It's all the other ancillary shots that are drawing the scene out that are too much for me.
I want to go back and watch that scene just so I can try and listen to music because I was just too hyped up of seeing Luke Skywalker, green lightsaber and all, just wrecking fools in a Star Wars show that's set after Return of the Jedi. Because I thought I was never going to see Luke Skywalker again because, like Brandon said earlier, he's a movie character. I thought they would only give a pass to Boba Fett because Boba Fett wasn't that much of a deal. He wasn't a driving force in the films, or as much of a driving force in the films. Whereas Luke is the guy. He is one of 3 people in those films that are the dudes or dudettes or whatever you want to call them.
the reason I thought we wouldn't see Luke in the show is more not because he's a movie character, but because Mark Hamill's old. And because I didn't think that they, as much as I thought that would probably be fine if you wanted to make him like a full character, is to recast him with Sebastian Stan, who does look a lot like a young Mark Hamill, and you like do some work to make him look more like him. I'd be like, that's fine with me. I don't care.
I'm 100% on board with recasting Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker.
Right. But I didn't think they would ever be okay with it. So, and I'm like, Mark Hamill's really old, and that'd be a lot to like do to make him look young. Obviously. So I didn't think that. That's the reason I never thought it would happen. But here we are, and it did. And he shows up, and he pulls off that hood, and he looks all right most of the time.
So he, Ryan, I saw your message to the Downright Annoyed group where you said Tron Legacy from 10 years ago. I think you're a little too harsh on Tron Legacy. I've seen the movie recently. That movie looks pretty good. This did not.
About Jeff Bridges at the end. That's straight up rubber.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
I'm telling you that this looked worse.
Yeah.
Ooh, I disagree.
Tron
Legacy looks way worse.
Yeah, brother.
I've seen it recently. I think it looks bad, but bad for the time. What bothered me with this one is that for me, because he was so stiff and looked like he was just pasted there, there was no like emotion in that face because of the budgetary limitations, I'm assuming. I couldn't connect with him in the same way that I couldn't connect with Carrie Fisher in The Rise of Skywalker, because I don't actually believe that he's there.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be the most negative on this part. Everything, I talked with him a lot about this. All the story stuff, the reason Luke is there, I'm fine with. I'm cool.
Yeah.
But the execution of him being there, I think, is so kind of bad. It was hard for me to be in the moment.
And you just mean like his presence, his
presence. Yeah, no, like him being Return of the Jedi Luke, being stern and more calm and like as like a leader. That's not the like that's Luke. His face didn't move, and the dude, he had no emotion. His eyes were deader than somebody who's been dead for 10 years. It like when he moved, it looked bad, and it's hard for me when honestly, this is supposed to be the most emotional scene in the entire show. Yeah. I couldn't connect with it.
When he moves, the very rare times that he does, honestly, it doesn't always feel like his head is attached.
There's one specific part where he does like a nod, and it just feels like his head goes up and down. Yeah. And I'm like, I watched it twice because I was like, am I being too harsh on it? And I don't think I am. I think for what Disney has given us before, I think this is one of the worst de-aging things they've ever done.
Now, I could chalk this up to budgetary, and one of my biggest problems isn't actually the CGI, even though I am pretty critical on it. I am for this technology. I think it can only get better. I hope it can only get better. But my issue with is how stoic Luke was, and I'm thinking because of the budgetary restrictions of de-aging Mark Hamill, not just recasting him, there was no warmth, there was no character coming from Luke. Even stern Luke, even stoic Jedi Luke, has some warmth to him. There is a comfortingness. There's a comfortness to seeing Luke Skywalker in this time period that you don't get when you see this version. When he takes Grogu, I don't feel anything coming from him.
Yeah,
he's cold. He's the opposite of warm.
A little cold. I'm probably gonna watch this episode again, and I might have it better because when I first saw de-aged Mark Hamill, I was just freaking out because holy shit, it's Mark Hamill, but younger and modulated his voice to sound younger. And
they did a good. I think they did a good job with the voice.
They did. I agree with that. I might have to go back because every time I see an actor de-aged, I just look at it and go, I don't know how I feel about that.
You know what? I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think anyone's done it better than Michael Douglas in the first Ant-Man movie.
Or I was gonna say Sam Jackson and Captain Marvel.
Nope, I said what I said.
I think he's right. I think Michael Douglas looks literally like he's still in the 90s, all of a sudden recording a movie today. He looks because he's so much older, and clearly like Sam Jackson has the benefit of not, his face hasn't changed that much. Yeah. Michael Douglas's face has changed a lot, and they make him look exactly like he did.
Okay, I'll concede that point.
I do think Michael Douglas is probably the peak of this de-aging stuff that we've seen.
Yes. But going back to what I was trying to say earlier is that I do agree, because when Luke was there, you're right. I did not feel any warmth from Luke, because I remember reading was it Shattered Empire? It's when Luke and Poe's mom go out to get the tree.
Shattered Empire.
Shattered Empire.
Okay. Like even when Luke is like he's still in his all black, he's in his black hood, but he's still smiling. He's like, "Oh yes, we can do this. The Force will guide us." It's like he's just so calm. And this one, he's felt a little stern.
I'll chalk it up to either budgetary problems or even just time limit. You know, you don't have a lot of time. In which case, cut out a couple of those reaction shots. But
yeah.
I'll say this about it, which is that I don't think anything in what you guys are saying is invalid, except I do think Tron Legacy looks worse. I'm sorry, I want to highlight that real quick just because I want to make a point. I think Tron Legacy is super acceptable with its young Jeff Bridges for most of the film, but part of it is because I am aware he is a digital construction in a digital world.
Yes.
But the opening scene where he's young Jeff Bridges talking to his son looks like utter garbage.
It's bad.
It looks so bad because he is digitally plastered onto a real world, and how bad he is really stands out. Whereas in the world of Tron, you kind of get away with it better because everything around him looks a little more palatable to him.
Clue.
Thinking of that scene in particular. Anyway, what my point was going to be, I don't think anything you guys said was invalid about it. What I will say is that I know I'm super forgiving of bad CGI. I will watch The Mummy Returns and still feel all the stakes and everything and look past the shitty CGI of the Scorpion King because I only care about the character and the story stuff that's happening, which is not me saying that you guys don't. I'm just saying I'm exceptionally good at not really letting the CGI get in my way a lot. So I didn't even really look at it when we watched this episode is kind of my point. So I don't have a lot to criticize about it because I wasn't thinking about it. I was trying to think about what Luke was saying and what it meant. And I have only watched this once. So I can't really say all I can say is that most of the time, with the exception of like one or two shots where it stood out to me, I felt like Luke was there enough for me to accept what was happening in the scene. And that's really all that mattered to me end of the day. But I also accept Superman in Justice League. So that's me.
Yeah.
I come away feeling that way where like, I don't care that his mouth might look a little funky if you pay too much attention to it. I don't pay that much attention to it. That's still the best he's been as Superman on screen, in my opinion.
This is true.
So that's where I come from on it.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to kind of really engage in the CGI. Did it work? Did it not?
Let me tell you
very critically
why. Because like I am also forgiving of bad CGI, but the point here is it's not like a bunch of random villains in The Mummy Returns or a bad Scorpion King. It's Luke Skywalker, who this is the most pivotal part of the entire season.
Right.
And if I'm not connecting with the character, with what he's saying, then how am I supposed to relate to the scene? And I think the visuals are a part of the character because they're de-aging Luke.
Yeah.
And I don't think it works. So it's hard for me to know. I know that's Luke Skywalker, but it's like, it's a robot to me. Like I don't feel the emotion is there.
I'll go a little bit further and add to what Ryan was saying that I'll even take the CGI out, and I'll take away the fact that his stoicism is because of the CGI. I don't think the dialogue of what he's conveying. I think the dialogue is being delivered stiffly, and the eyes, which convey emotions, aren't. So I'm not getting emotion from Luke. He may be there. He may sound like Luke, but I'm not feeling Luke Skywalker there. And even taking out the CGI aspect of it, I would feel like Luke Skywalker was there if they had recast him, sure. But just watching that scene, I'm like, okay, I get that I'm hearing Luke, but I'm not feeling Luke. I'm not feeling that he's there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference between like Justice League, like I hate the mustache, but I'm feeling Superman is there. I'm not feeling that Luke Skywalker is there.
Sure.
I think the line. I think I only like one line that he said. It's like, I will love this child like he is my own, or something. He said something like that.
Yeah.
But every other line, I'm like, I think you could have chose better lines for Luke to say. Like everything he's saying is just like, it feels like really generic Jedi stuff, and I'm like, Luke is like, hey, like my name's Luke, and my name's Luke, and I'm here to help this guy.
So this is kind of the point I was trying to get to, which is that I didn't pay much attention to the CGI. I paid attention to what was being said.
Sure.
And I wasn't criticizing that as much. So I don't really like the conversation. That's the thing that I wanted.
I don't
think the exchange is good.
Yeah.
And I think it has much less to do with like dialogue delivery, or like I'm not saying anything you guys said about
I don't like both of them,
is wrong or anything like that. I'm just saying, I just didn't like what he had to say. It didn't feel like a conversation that made sense. I didn't like the way that this whole thing came about, how he engaged with the material of it. I think it was written bad. And that's really the only thing that bothers me, because I don't care about all of the other things that you guys were mentioning, as long as it textually works for me. It textually didn't work for me. And this isn't me resistant to the idea of Luke taking Grogu. I'm not. I'm fine with it. It's me saying this scene that is supposed to be the live action Return of the Jedi era Skywalker is written kind of bad.
Yeah, let me tell you. I look
on
for
paper,
it.
On paper. Yeah, I read it. I'd be like, this doesn't sound good.
Yeah. People who don't like The Last Jedi love this episode, because this is the Luke Skywalker that they wanted. Even though we did get that Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, people don't understand. Just because he was Skyped in, he was still saving the universe. But they needed him to be physically there. So a lot of people love this episode simply for the fact that they got that Luke. And that's great. And I'm happy for you. Now we're at the point where I don't know if I am satisfied with where this show is going to go next season, knowing now what it is.
May I speak on the Last Jedi thing a bit, because I did see a lot of the discourse of people who like the Last Jedi saying that this is not what they want from Star Wars and not what they want from Luke. I totally get that. I totally understand a lot of that. I do think there is a fanatical side to the Last Jedi defenders. That will
criticize everything.
Criticize everything, exactly. I love The Last Jedi. I love The Last Jedi, Luke. It's my favorite Star Wars film, as I've said. This only reinforced, where I see Luke here, only reinforced what I enjoyed of The Last Jedi, if I'm honest, because I'm seeing Luke cut down some Jedi, cut down some Jedi, like father, like son. I'm seeing Luke cut down some droids, and then takes Grogu from his parental figure. And he's doing exactly what we know he did that led to the fall of the New Jedi Order. When we see him in Last Jedi, he's doing the same mistakes that the Jedi made. We know he did those. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I see the through line still. They're still there.
I think not having been involved in that discourse at all, comparing between Last Jedi and this, I think that there's a really kind of dumb need for you to see a character do something cool to know they're capable of it. And it's like everyone, yes, the Rogue One Darth Vader scene is incredible. I always knew Darth Vader could do it. Yeah. I didn't need to see Rogue One to know he could do it.
I played the beginning of Force Unleashed. He destroyed all of the Wookiees.
I'm not even going that far. I'm like, just in the original trilogy, I didn't need to see Vader do that kind of thing to know Vader could do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't need that, it's cool. It's fun. I super enjoy it. It's eye candy. It's great. Mm-hmm. I didn't need it. Same way I didn't need Luke in Last Jedi to do something like what he does here with the Death Troopers, because I know he can do it. It's not about I don't need the cool kick-ass action for cool kick-ass action nonsense in Star Wars. It's not what I go there for. That original trilogy is not built on intensely great visualized action. It's built on really interesting character and story development and cool creative use of modeling.
Yeah,
that's what it's built on. And that is just not what I come to it for. So I think just on the fundamental level of I'm so glad we finally got to see Luke do the slashy slash in the modern cool way, because you couldn't use lightsabers like they did back in the original trilogy. And I go, yeah, cool, but what's the real heart and weight of that? Because unless you can connect the fact that it's Luke and I know it's Luke, but guess what? I can't even see his face.
It's the same people that are there's this really cool re-edit of the Vader Obi-Wan fight from A New Hope, where it's all cool. And it's and it's super dope, but it's that is a dope choreographed fight scene, but that fight scene is not about a fight. That's not the point of it whatsoever.
Right.
And that's just some people they just choose not to see that, or they just don't care that Star Wars can be deeper than a bang lightsaber fight.
It's the same people who would post that fight between Vader and Obi-Wan, the remix one, and say, there, I fixed it. It's no, you didn't. You made it worse.
Yeah.
I guess my point.
I think there is something to be said about liking those types of things, and for me, I do like I like seeing Luke cut down some droids. That's cool. It's fun to watch.
Don't get me wrong. I like seeing Luke cut down some droids. I even like that fan ad of the Vader Obi-Wan fight. I haven't seen it.
I wanted to say, because people are talking about how the new Obi-Wan series is going to be a fight between Obi-Wan and Vader. I still want to see that. I think that's a cool story beat. I know where the story can come from because I've seen Return of the Jedi, and that line. I understand where that can come from, but there is also still importance to the fights, like we see with Obi-Wan and Maul in Rebels, and we see in I think both can exist, is what I'm trying to say, is both can exist there and still be just as good.
Right. And my only point in it is to say that, like, what you're saying you wanted, like what really bothers me when you're equating Last Jedi in this is what you're saying is you didn't care who it was, you just wanted to see someone cool do cool Jedi action that you could say was Luke, because that's not Mark Hamill doing the cutting down. You don't see him.
Yeah.
You get Mark Hamill doing character stuff with Luke in Last Jedi. You clearly don't care about that if you're equating like, this is the Luke we always wanted. I'm like, cool. You just wanted a guy who could do the cool hacky slashy thing.
Yeah.
That's fine. Whatever. But let's admit that that's what it was then. And it's not about like, oh, but who cares? Who cares? Like, yes, it's cool that Luke can do that thing. I care more about who he is beyond the fact that he can do that cool thing.
Yeah, the way that I saw it is that, like, if you like The Last Jedi or hate The Last Jedi, this was a win-win for fans, because you got your Luke being a badass, but you also got him being the Jedi Temple man that unfortunately fails later. So like, I thought like it's a win for everyone.
I agree with that. If the dialogue worked better though in that scene between him and Din Djarin, I think that scene. I think all of that would have been a lot better, but because the dialogue isn't great, the dialogue scene between the two of them, that's what really stunts it for me. Yeah. Because I'm like, cool, I see the Jedi who failed. I see the Jedi who failed. Again, but then I'm seeing him talk. I'm like, I don't see Luke here.
The conversation that he has, it's just so like. There's no heart or warmth to it. Like it doesn't feel like Luke. Like to me, it feels like Luke would like bend down and like, hey, little guy, you ready to go on an adventure? Yeah. Something like that. And I'm just like, I'm here. I'm a Jedi. I will love this child. Let's go. And I'm like, that is so boring. That is not Luke. It
sounds like his lines were written by a bot.
For real. Yes. I said 1,000 lines to a robot, and this is what Star Wars sounds like.
Yeah.
You know what? I will say though, this episode did R2-D2 better than the entire sequel trilogy.
Hey, he can talk to a little baby. He's in the. That felt like
disagree.
I didn't
hard disagree.
I thought R2 was cute, but
somebody clearly didn't pay attention to what scene I thought was the best in The Last Jedi.
I just want to be clear. I'm joking. I don't actually care.
It's R2 with Luke when he plays the Leia thing.
Oh, that is
when they do their
at the end. Yeah.
Anyway,
hey, I was just happy to see the green lightsaber again.
No, I am too.
The cool slashy stuff, as Sparks likes to say it, that's what's called now. The slashy stuff. It was rad, especially when he used the Force to crunch that Dark Trooper. Cool.
There's a podcast called Steel Wars. He's a really cool guy. Watching his reaction to the Luke Skywalker thing, and he's like us. He likes The Last Jedi. He doesn't like The Rise of Skywalker. I just want to throw that out there. But he was watching the sequence and like the tears that he felt that he had, like seeing this moment, like it was still something. Even though he likes what they did with Luke, it's still something that he wanted to see, and it was such a powerful moment for him. It was really cool to watch his reaction there.
Yeah. I definitely don't get that out of it, and I'm glad that people do.
A lot of people are like full crying. Like I also watched a couple reactions, and I'm like,
I respect that. I'm pretty like I respect that. Like if that's the jam that you needed, then great. I'm glad you got it. Glad you got it.
If it was a Saw's Ventress coming to steal the baby, I would have cried. I would have like, oh, Dave Filoni
or Windu. If it had been Windu, I would have just
one-armed crazy Windu.
Holy crap! I would have lost my shit.
Yeah.
But like I get it. Like if this is something you've emotionally wanted, I'm glad that this was here to satisfy you. That's kind of the nice thing about these kind of shows.
Yeah.
What I wish is much what we said. Like, you know, like I think back to like when we talked about Tarkin in Rogue One. Like Tarkin's CGI is not great. There's something a little uncanny valley about it.
Yeah.
But that felt like Tarkin.
But the character's there.
The character is there, and so I kind of don't give a crap.
Yeah.
And this I don't even think like it's the I agree about like his deliveries, but I think the dialogue is bad.
Yeah.
It's not the CGI presence that gets me on this. It's that this just isn't written to it. There's, I think, 2 lines that really sound like they're hitting at something on Luke. And I think both of them are when he's not visually on screen.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, where it sounds like Luke and I feel like it's Luke. And then the rest of it, I just feel like this is generic Jedi. You could have just introduced a new Jedi and they would have sounded the same. This could have been Ezra, and this would have sounded the same.
Imagine it is an X-wing and it's a new Jedi we've never met. It's like, I'm here to take you to Luke Skywalker. I think, as much as I like seeing Luke, I think that would have been even more powerful, because it's like, oh wow, he's actually building the Jedi Knights again. Like, and this is a new character he's probably going to get murdered later.
For sure. But that would have been a cool thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about the post-credit scene.
Hold on, I don't want to go there yet. I do want to credit that Pedro Pascal, I think, does a lot of good work with his personality of saying goodbye to Grogu.
The baby touch.
I think all of that works really, really well. Yes, he takes his helmet off for him because he wants it. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
I at the same time that I criticize what Luke was doing there, Din's performance was awesome, both in and out of.
Din is what almost got me to cry.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
That's where I felt like, and as you should, honestly, when you're watching that show, like it's not the appearance of Luke, because let's be honest, like other than Luke showing up, he's not doing anything that necessarily should like pull at those heartstrings, but this does. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Their goodbye is very, very well done. And I do think that, like, I do also want to just really quickly talk about, just touch on, I thought that everybody's reactions on the build to Luke getting there is really good. Grogu touching the screen, him kind of sensing him, Gideon slowly getting really, really scared is really well done.
He's like
that they stop him from killing himself.
So like the droids are about to come in, and like Gideon's got a smile, and they're like, "There's a single X-wing coming." He's like, and he's like,
at first he's just like, that's weird, and then he's seeing the view screens of him slashing through the Death Trooper. He's like, oh no!
And then Bo-Katan's other friend, the other Mandalorian whose name we don't know, is like a Jedi. He goes, oh no!
Yeah.
Gideon, because we were speculating if do you think Gideon would die or not. I'm glad he's alive.
Me too.
We can get more Imperial stuff next season.
Yeah, when he was about to put the blaster under his chin, I'm like, please don't let him kill himself, and they did not.
You don't deserve to die this day.
Yeah, and so Grogu's gone. We're definitely gonna talk about it in a second, but
Grogon.
But Brandon wants to talk about that post-credits scene.
The thing that made me more excited than anything else in the whole show was the fact that Boba Fett killed Bib Fortuna and then took a seat.
Who got
my favorite thing is that Bib Fortuna somehow survived and got fat.
His tentacles are all fat.
He looked like Jabba a little bit too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
I wasn't looking forward to the post. I didn't even know there was a post-credits thing. Fanny and I were just talking about what we just saw, and then I was like, oh man, they don't have the concept art on this episode. Yeah. This is the one episode that I know of that doesn't have concept art. But then, of course, we get to Jabba. I was like, is that Jabba's palace? But he did.
I knew it. I saw that. Oh, the twin sons. Oh, Jabba's palace.
Oh yeah.
I was like, where are we going to Jabba's palace? He dead. Leia choked him out, and then we see Bib Fortuna. I was like, oh,
it's just. I never thought in a million years that I would be excited at the prospect of gangster Boba Fett.
I'm for it.
I'm so into that. And then Fennec just like takes a drink, sits on the side of the chair. Hell yeah.
It feels like a comic book like page where like you turn, it's like next time on Boba Fett, and I'm like, it's such a clear like this would only happen in a movie the way that this is happening. And I'm like, yeah, that's funny though. Yeah, I thought he wanted to be a simple man in the galaxy, but now I guess he's a gangster, so that's cool.
And I wonder if we get exploration that's what he always wanted was to be one of the gang crime lords. That's cool.
More gangster stuff.
So before we talk about Grogu leaving, what that means, how we feel, Ryan, I think, is correct. And the Book of Boba Fett is season 3 of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And we will not be following Din in season 3.
I am not willing to make any statement pro or against that. Because honestly, as I see it, it could go either way. And they're not going to tell us, at least until next week or even next month. They're not going to tell us for a while what is actually going to happen. So I'm willing to sit on that and wait.
I just imagine, because we just had that investor meeting, I'm sure they would have said, hey, we got another season of Mando or something. And then we got, in exactly 1 year from now, we're getting a Boba Fett show. And unless they're filming 2 seasons of Mandalorian at once, I think this is the next season. It's like Mandalorian : the Book of Boba Fett.
I can see what you're calling this new arc, the book that you can call this new arc, the Book of Boba Fett. At the same time, I feel there was enough setup between Bo-Katan and Din and him taking the helmet off, what that means for him and the Watch, what that means for him holding the Darksaber, that you could still have a Mandalorian season 3 about Din and have Book of Boba Fett be the side project.
Now don't misunderstand, because like I have to say, I think he brought this up and other people are saying it online too. I think the logic actually makes a ton of sense, that it's probably true. The Mandalorian will be an anthology show about different Mandalorian related characters, which means that next season might be about Boba, but the season after will probably return to Bo-Katan and by association Din.
And then converge on that event.
And all that kind of stuff. That actually kind of makes so much sense. I have to feel like it's probably the case, because I can't imagine why they wouldn't have announced a Boba Fett series on its own.
Okay.
Think of how many shows they announced. They're not going to also do a Mandalorian when they just announced a Boba Fett, I think.
That, and also the way that they do not only the ending with Grogu leaving, but also the fact that the post-credits is placed in the way that it is, makes it feel like this is the tease for the next part of the show. This is not the tease for a new spin-off series.
We heard rumblings before the investor meeting that there was a Boba Fett show being cast and would film before Mandalorian season 3. That's what we heard. And I'm not saying, and we speculated on this show that they could be one of the same.
Yeah.
We said that they could be the same thing, and it's just people getting the wires but crisscrossed. Like I said, I'm directly in the middle. I think it could go either way. I think there is significant evidence to support that a season 3 will be about Din, the Darksaber, Bo-Katan, because I don't think that the show doesn't end with Grogu and Din riding off into the sunset in some way. But I could also see that the next season is just the Book of Boba Fett. Like I am completely like 50-50 split down the middle. I cannot go one way or the other.
Marc talked a lot about this because
it's gonna come up now because
Grogu talk.
By saying like, oh, the next season's going to be about Boba, it's still not like saying we're not going to see Din ever again or that kind of thing. It's just I can totally see that. And maybe to their detriment, that this is going to be their Halloween anthology kind of thing that they're trying to do. Season 3 Book of Boba Fett is their season of the witch. It is a step away from what you knew. Now, the reason I say that's to their detriment is because I'm like, I think a lot of people are going to be mad you did that. And we'll see how that plays out. And I'll be honest, conceptually, in a world where all the other Star Wars shows weren't announced and we just have The Mandalorian, I would not want the next season to just be the Book of Boba Fett. Looking at the wider universe that they are building, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of okay. That's probably fine.
We got 3 shows in this era now.
From the investor meeting, we do know that The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and the Rangers of the Republic will end together and kind of culminate in some way.
Yeah. Event movie or show or something.
Star Wars. I said, I think there's ample evidence for both sides.
I just hope I'm wrong, because I don't want my journey with Din to be over right now, because like this is something that they can come back on, if they are doing a whole season of Boba, then they can come back to Din. But like I do not want, oh my god, Emma, I do not want these cast of characters to be gone for a year or longer. So I hope I'm wrong, but like a year from now, and they just announced like 10 shows, I cannot see them announcing another season of a show. I got so much.
I mean, it could be that they didn't announce it at the Investors Day meeting because they didn't want the fans to know that they were planning a Boba Fett series. Like I said, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not.
Of course, yeah. I'm just saying, like, you could still announce Mandalorian season 3, and that doesn't tell you what the season's about.
Well, we know that Mandalorian season 3 was announced, and the season 4 was announced as well.
Was it?
Yes.
It wasn't at Investor Day, but it was.
Oh, okay.
So, but it makes, the only reason I bring it up is speculation, but it makes a lot of sense to me. If you are about to do a season of the show where you are not following him with Grogu, which is what's about to happen, then it's probably best to break it up with something else. And so Boba Fett would be the logical thing that you do that with. He could still show up in that to help out Boba. That's possible, or whatever. Or maybe he's going to show up in Rangers of the Republic to help out Cara. Who knows? I'm sure we'll see him again before we would see a 4th season of Mandalorian. That probably would circle back to including him.
So you brought up a really good point about you needed this to happen. You needed Grogu to get trained by the Jedi because he's not going to die at the temple in Rise of Skywalker or whatever, right? So you need to get him away from Din so you can have that character growth and stuff. Otherwise, the show would go 5 seasons and meander what you do with a baby. I like and don't like that we're getting rid of the baby now because like you're gonna have to do the stuff with the Jedi eventually. You have to get to that story point. I just don't know. Especially with the execution of this final episode, I'm like, I don't know if this is where I wanted it to happen.
Putting aside the execution of like Luke's dialogue kind of thing,
yeah,
I really like the choice overall.
Yeah, it makes
because
sense.
This goes back to what we were talking about when we knew we were going to meet Ahsoka. I'm like, how do you justify keeping Grogu with the Mandalorian once Ahsoka comes into the picture? They kind of found their way, so they did it. And I'm like, okay, but now that he's called to another Jedi, how do you justify keeping the child with the Mandalorian? And the answer is you can't. And that was the thing, is that like anything that wasn't this textually doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Anything that was not soon him being with someone who was going to teach him how to use the Force just didn't work. The only way it would have worked is if way back when the season started, what we talked about when we talked about the show last year was that the quest changed from find a Jedi to find his species. If that had changed to that, you could have gone on and done that, but that would have been a bold thing that they would have had to wanted to explore. They clearly didn't, so It becomes Grogu has to end up with a Jedi. Mm-hmm. That's just like, otherwise you are becoming a formulaic show that is just repeating things to force the child to stay with the Mandalorian when he has a mission to get him to a Jedi.
And now that Grogu is gone, we cannot immediately return back to him because then the journey going with Luke would have been for literally nothing. And why did he go with Luke if he's immediately going to return? So Grogu has to be gone now, and time has to pass. Otherwise, this last episode again would have been for nothing.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, cool. So like, if the next season or two we don't have Grogu, that sucks. I really like Grogu, but again, for story reasons, you have to get rid of him.
Right. And
they put themselves in that corner when you casted a baby as your main character.
Right.
So I'm just at a crossroads. I'm like, I get almost like a Last Jedi, or like I don't hate the decisions. I just don't know if it's what I would have done.
Well, it's more like they wrote themselves into a corner when they cast a baby that will never not be a baby.
Also true,
because Grogu won't age to the point where he'll be in Din's lifetime. Maybe
he'll be a baby.
He'll always be a baby as far as the show goes.
A teenager at like 300. Like what? Yeah. Like what's going on here?
Yeah, they did create that problem for themselves. But the thing is, like, whenever Grogu does reappear in Din's life, whenever they decide to do that, however they decide to do that, he can at least be a more actively engaged participant. They can have their own way of communicating with each other a little more because he'll have associated himself with the Force more. Mm-hmm. He'll be able to utilize the Force a bit more. There is stuff that can make it so he is a more active and engaged part of the show.
He just has to
by
go.
doing it.
He has to go,
but it has to be done.
Yeah.
And I was pointing out to Ryan where I'm like, I get like really enjoying him being that character attached to the baby and everything. But what I was telling him is that I loved watching this episode. I loved everything about them invading the ship and everything. Yeah. And all of it was for the purpose of getting Grogu, but none of it required Grogu's presence on the show to be good. I enjoyed it. So I'm excited and interested to watch what the Mandalorian stuff is about him and Bo-Katan and their two different beliefs about what Mandalore is and all that kind of stuff. I'm happy to watch that get fleshed out. Mm-hmm. And it can't really get fleshed out with Grogu on the tail.
Yeah, it's true. I guess my thing was the show when it was announced and when the first season of promised, like, this is a small scale Star Wars thing. You know, this is about, the Outer Rim, and it's a bunch of bandits and Mandalorians and stuff. So like the closer we get to the Star Wars that we know, the less I become interested in it. And I still love it. But it's like when you start bringing in Ahsoka and you start bringing in Luke Skywalker, it's like we really can never escape from the main cast.
But that's,
like we can never escape.
Well, but that's kind of why I like this. Is because Grogu being gone means yes, that's exactly what this can be.
Yes.
Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, all of that can fall back to the Outer Rim stuff, to exploring the things we have enjoyed so much about the show. We don't need to worry about Jedi because we don't have a Force-sensitive baby we have to think about anymore.
Yeah. I guess, again, that's a situation where, like, I guess they created that problem for themselves by having the Force-sensitive baby.
Yeah,
When
they first told us about the show and we saw the trailers, like, yeah, that's what they told us. But that was all thrown out the window as soon as Grogu comes into the picture.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that it was all thrown out the window because we've had episodes where we've talked about, look how this is exploring Outer Rim politics, or look how this is doing these things.
No, I understand. But as far as I was concerned, the end point was always Luke. The end point was always...
That's the thing.
Well, I know. That's why I was surprised that we're here so early. I don't know what, and that's why I agree with Sparks. Like, we can go back to the Outer Rim stuff, but like, as far as I'm honestly agreeing with you, Sparks. As far as Grogu was being involved in the show, that story always had to have a larger implication with the galaxy towards the end of it. Like, it always led, all paths led to Luke.
Yeah, I just wish it didn't.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily say that it had to lead to Luke. I do think that there were bold and risky choices you could have made to either have him choose, like, by forcing the decision of him being non-Force sensitive, which I don't think would have been the right path, but you could have, or the mission becoming about learning more about his species. You could have gone that route. That route did not require Luke Skywalker to show up at the end.
I would have liked that route. Honestly, I really wanted that.
I would have too. I told Ryan that, like, the truly bold decision I wanted to see is them ultimately having to find his species, to learn more about them, to learn about why all of his species are so Force sensitive. These are the things we were hypothesizing when we talked last year about, like, what if all of them are super Force sensitive, but they are also a race that believes that they should not be involved in anything close to the Jedi or the Sith, and Yoda was actually a radical who abandoned their belief system and they hate him for it.
That'd be
all
dope.
Of these kind of things that you could explore there. I would have loved to have done it. The show, they decided that's not the route they wanted to go. Yeah. Once you decide away from that, then yes, this is the way that it has to play out. And I'm glad it went out while it was good. I'm glad that it stopped that whole story before it got tedious.
Yeah.
That it just was a solid season. Grogu's gone. We can still focus on these other characters that are interesting. We will get back to Grogu. He'll show up somewhere. It's like this is Star Wars. They have proven that they'll do that at any time.
It's true.
We will find out what happened. We'll get there.
I definitely don't think he died. I definitely don't think he died when the Jedi Temple was destroyed.
Oh, I don't even think he's there. I don't even think he's there.
Yeah, and again,
I think I feel that Grogu learns as much as he can from Luke, and maybe he does age up. He's with Luke for a while, then he does age up, and then he's like, "No, this isn't for me. I want to go back to with Mando."
He survived 2 Jedi temples.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
if I were to put a hypothesis on it, I think that Grogu decides that Luke's way is not the way he wants to look. That not the best way.
Yeah.
You can end up Grogu, yes, ending up back with Din, but also like associated with Ahsoka. You can end up Grogu back with we can still circle back to his race. All these avenues are still possible.
Yeah.
But the ultimate choice I would say is that Grogu, for the intents and purposes of his connection to Luke, decides to leave because he disagrees or something with Luke, because of how these things come out. Luke can't possibly have any knowledge of where Grogu is when the sequel trilogy is occurring.
I laugh thinking that Grogu is a Knights of Ren and he's just hiding his ears in a helmet and he's like, I can't use the Force and I can't use a lightsaber.
And he got real tall in 30 years.
Yeah, he grew 6 feet in 3 years. Yeah. It's just obviously he doesn't die. He doesn't die by Kylo Ren. It's just when you bring Luke and he's like, I'm the guy who made the Jedi Temple and then it dies after me. And I'm like, people are going to think this. And you're putting that into people's brains. And I'm like, so we're going to have to now rescue him from the temple, or we're going to have to
it's just that people have mistakenly said that in a couple of seasons, we're going to see the Jedi. No, it's still 20 years before Kylo Ren destroys the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
It's another 30 until we see Luke on Acto.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much time between where we just saw him and the events that we know leading to the destruction of the Jedi Temple.
Also, The Mandalorian is not the show that we need to see all that stuff in either.
Yeah.
Well, that's why Luke's on is called Akuto.
Akuto.
Okay.
So I'm perfectly content with saying goodbye to the baby right now. I really am.
Yeah.
I think that I honestly think we were about to head into a season where his presence was going to be hurting the show more than helping it. Other than him being cute, I don't think he was going to be helping the story stay interesting.
They're clearly going towards the Mandalorian stuff,
right? Yeah. Which is what I want to see, honestly.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with this decision. I'm glad they made it early. I'm glad that they made the logical decision to have it be Luke who found him, because I could have seen it not being and them finding some other thing. I still wish that went a little differently, but that's okay. Maybe I'll feel better in time. I usually do with Star Wars.
The beat cheating the submission.
This is kind of still like talking about the Disney Investor Day stuff, I guess, but like I am very uncomfortable with the Ahsoka show. And I'll say that is the part that doesn't fit for me. Rangers of the Republic and this work for me as ideas, even if this becomes an anthology show or you have a Boba Fett series. I don't care. I'm happy to have more Boba Fett. That is stuff I want to see. That is stuff I want to do. Ahsoka in live action and connected to all this is not what I want.
I want to circle back real quickly to what you were talking about, and I want to hear more about what you have to say about the Ahsoka show. But I wanted to say, if they wanted to keep going with Grogu, I do think that the show, Lone Wolf and Cub is a story that's been going on for ages. It's a story as old as time. The Lone Wolf and Cub trope. Like you could do he's just there. It's not important to the story that he is who he is. It's just Mandalorian and Grogu doing adventures.
Yeah, Brandon, that's what I when I was talking to him about it, I was like, well, yes, he's force sensitive, and like it's probably not best for the story to just ignore that he's like the most force sensitive thing in the planet on the universe right now. But couldn't he just be a baby? Like that sucks, and like, but again, they did this to themselves when it's a show called The Mandalorian. So like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can make this a big Jedi show, but like that's not what the show kind of was promised. And again, you're right. The first episode we got Grogu, but it's kitty cats, relax. Even Grogu still being there, that first season is still super small scale stuff. So I would have liked if it would have stayed like that. I like this season. I like season 2 more than season 1. Yeah. But the trajectory of the stuff that's getting added starting to worry me.
I was just saying that I don't think there was. If this season had gone a little bit differently, I should preface. I don't think we were going to be heading into a season where Grogu's presence would be detrimental to the show. Like I think that's what Sparks was implying.
It was, and the reason is because they made a path that he either had to once we got to Ahsoka. They made a path of he has to choose to engage with the Force or not. And if they chose not, then they have just killed all the potential future that was important about including him in the show. Yes, it's good for the immediate future of like enjoying Din and him together, but it also means all that force sensitive shit that like excited you about the possibility of the future of Star Wars, because we have talked about he is a representation of a Star Wars future past the rise of Skywalker because of his age and his type of species. You just kill that if he chooses not to embrace the Force. So that's not an option.
Yeah.
So if that's not an option, then he has to learn how to use the Force. And as long as that stays the mission, then yes, the series was going to get dragged out with all these reasons, just that it's forcing for him to keep taking him places and him not learn the Force yet.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, like once they made it that choice, that was what had to happen. And yes, I do think like with that being the path that he had to take, yes, I do think it would have become formulaic. I think it would have become repetitive and a little silly.
Can you expand a little bit more on what you were saying about Ahsoka? I want to circle back to where you were.
I mean, a lot of it comes down to like a lot of it comes down. It's not even the time period. A lot of it just comes down to Ahsoka stuff feels like it has to reference Ezra and Thrawn.
Yes,
and I don't know that I'm really up for watching a live action show of that. There's certainly biases of like I don't really want it to be Rosario Dawson. I want it to be Ashley Eckstein. I want to be watching it with the characters that I was watching it with. I want to watch it and have that. That's certainly part of the bias, but it's also that Ahsoka's thing clearly is about Thrawn, while Rangers of the Republic and Mandalorian feel like they can be about the politics of the New Republic with the Outer Rim, which is something that is interesting. And it is that Ahsoka is happening at the same time. It is that they have said that Ahsoka is going to be building to a climactic event tied to those other two shows, where I'm like, it should just be its own thing.
It should,
whether it's animated or not, that shouldn't be relevant, because we're talking about like the people that aren't Force sensitive, and I want to focus on that. And that does concern me, that like these things are going to have to keep weaving their way back into Ahsoka's story in whatever way. I'd rather that just be its own entity.
Sure, I understand.
It's like if God, I'm trying to think of a really good analogy on this one. It's like if you had Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is maybe not the best example. Hold on.
You'll get it.
And Thor, okay? And they all get 3 shows, and you're told these are all going to build to one climactic event. And I'm like, one of these things is not like the other. That's what it's like.
No, yeah.
Where you're like, you got to do a lot to make me feel like it's justified for these things to tie into each other.
Yeah.
It feels like,
and not forced.
It feels like it's three different aspects of this timeline. You have the Mandalorian stuff, you have the Jedi stuff, and the politics stuff. And it's like, dude, we wanna really focus on this timeline. And I don't know if,
but the Mandalorian stuff like really does play with at least the politics, and it specifically plays with like a focus on the Outer Rim.
Yeah.
And the Republic could play with both the Outer Rim and Inner Rim. Yeah. So those things do feel like they intertwine with each other. Ahsoka feels like a whole other thing, unless you're going to say Thrawn is the problem for the other two as well.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
that's what worries me, that like they're gonna have to tie everything together, and then Thrawn will like, oh, now I guess I'm working for the Empire again. I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Don't do that. You're better than that, Thrawn.
Well, we don't know where all the Empire went to the unknown regions where Thrawn was last, so he could have ran the Empire. We don't know.
And none of that is like detrimental to the series or anything. It can still be great. I just get a little nervous because of the implication of them needing to be connected to each other. Ahsoka is the one that makes me feel a little off. And let's go ahead and assume that Boba Fett is going to be its own series. Again, Mandalorian, Boba Fett, whatever it is, and Rangers of the Old Republic, totally cool. Love it. Think all that's probably going to be really well explored, in-depth stuff I really want to do. Ahsoka, yeah, I want to see the Ahsoka Thrawn stuff play out somewhere. I don't necessarily want it to have to be something that justifies the other two as well.
Yeah.
Also, so Ahsoka and Luke meet when? How long do you think?
There were people talking about like, why do you want Luke and Ahsoka to meet? It's like, because it's kind of cool to see your favorite characters talk to each other.
Yeah, like, hey, I knew your dad before he was an asshole.
It's like, you knew my dad?
There's a fan comic that came out, I think,
I
just
saw it
a week ago or so, that was of them meeting and her saying you killed Vader, and it's like, actually he killed the Emperor, like I didn't kill the Emperor, Anakin did. And she's like, he came back, and she like breaks down crying knowing that he came back in the last moment. And I'm like, that's pretty.
I saw that.
I do not believe for a second that Luke and Ahsoka didn't meet in the 20 years that Luke was running a Jedi temple. I just don't. I think that at some point Ahsoka went to that Jedi temple.
There's absolutely a like X-Men end credit scene where like Wolverine is like getting recruited by the X-Men, but it's Luke and Ahsoka, and she's like, "Nah, I want no part of it." Absolutely.
She's just, even if she doesn't want no part of it, just be like, I just wanted to see what you were doing. I wanted to see you bringing back the Jedi.
I wanted to see what you're doing, and it sucks.
Even better is for her to come check it out, and her be like,
"This is dumb.
I don't think you're doing this right." And he's like, "What? I'm doing all that. I don't know, man. I don't have faith in it."
I've seen this
all. What the Jedi text say? It's like,
this all looks familiar.
Seen the Clone Wars?
The sacred Jedi texts.
That's a map view.
All right. That's 2 hours worth of Mandalorian talk. I think we're good.
2 hours for.
I mean, in a sense, it feels like a chapter of the show is officially over.
Yes.
No matter what comes next, in some way, it's over. Many things will be revisited, I'm sure, but it required a lot of discussion.
Yeah. The babysitting arc of this DBZ Mandalorian saga is
there
over.
There are definite threads that they leave open, especially with Bo-Katan.
Who knows? Grogu might get Jonathan Kented. You never know.
Oh no. What's up, Grogu?
I am no matter what happens, I am curious as to how the story of Bo-Katan plays out going forward.
Absolutely. Filoni is definitely building to like a live action, retake Mandalore, whatever. It's gonna be epic.
All right. So that'll do it. We're good.
Right. Star Wars. I like it. I wish I loved it more. I like it a lot.
So this is our final episode of the Mandalorian Fake Nerds Watch series.
Just one final note that we kind of talked our way around. I just wanted to really hit it. Is while Luke's execution in the show wasn't great, Luke Skywalker being present justifies not only the show's you walk that line, you don't want it to be tied like intrinsically dependent upon the films.
Yes.
But it is nice to have something where they are very clearly, and with the future of all these shows, willing to go, look, all of this is part of one unit.
Absolutely.
This is kind of the appeal of what the MCU shows mean for the future on Disney Plus, but like getting to see it in Star Wars is another thing where you get to have that cemented where it means all of this is just as canon as everything else. And you need, and like just the way Mandalorian has in its own way justified Clone Wars and Rebels, like you can no longer like treat those as just kind of passing canon. That is 100% hard canon. You need those things. This has also elevated itself to be right in conversation with the films.
Yeah. It's funny. Like, we thought the MCU would be the first to integrate TV and movies, but like, we got Luke Skywalker on a TV. That's pretty dope. That's still pretty dope.
I mean, well, they would have been first if those shows had come out on time.
Oh, you're right. That should have came out in like August or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, so that'll do it. This is our final episode of the Mandalorian Fake Nerds Watch series. We did it again, guys. Our next Fake Nerds Watch series is probably WandaVision.
Most likely. Let's be real.
No, let's just cram out like one other show before it comes out. What you guys want?
What's on right now?
Recently.
Okay, guys, catch up on Star Trek Discovery, and then we'll talk about the episodes.
What's it? We're just gonna do Queen's Gambit. We're gonna do the whole Queen's Gambit. Look for the Queen's Gambit. Entire season special.
I've almost started it.
I've
almost started it like 3 times in the last 2 weeks. I'm just like, should I start it? I'm like, nah,
Hellstrom was just canceled. Let's do that.
I'm gonna watch that show eventually. I promise.
Yeah, people I keep saying that about Inhumans too.
But actually,
why would you?
I'm actually interested though in Hellstrom, not in Inhumans.
I need to catch up on Runaways, but that doesn't matter. This, like I said, our next Fake Nerds Watch will be WandaVision, so stay tuned for that coming in January. This is the last Fake Nerds Watch. This is for the year. We are also doing our final episode of the year. Sparks, this coming out tomorrow?
Yeah.
All right. If this comes out tomorrow, then stay tuned tonight for our episode on Tenet. Last week we meant to do Freaky, we didn't. But our Freaky episode and the Crudes episode are up right now on this channel as specials. They're also audio. Crap.
Or if
they will be audio. What?
If you're inverted, you've already seen Tenet and you're watching it backwards.
If you hopefully by the time you're listening to this, the audio versions of those 2 review specials are up. Oops. So there you go. Until then, you can check out our other stuff on this channel. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. That old shtick. Check out our other Fake Nerds Watch series if you're hunkering for some more Fake Nerds Watch. We got Swamp Thing, The Boys, we got tons of stuff. We also have a Basement Arcade series and a Fake Nerd Book Club series, all of which are done for the year. So check out our back catalogs of those. Until next time you see us, I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. Ben?
I'm Ben Magnet27 on Instagram and Twitter.
Sparks?
I'm just happy to have good Star Wars at Sparks Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
Ryan?
DJ Tony Snark everywhere.
Until then, subscribe to us on all the things. This is the wrong setup for this. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
This is the way. McClunky! He said McClunky!
We did hear McClunky.
I heard McClunky.
Yeah.